Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today I'm going to be discussing the NHL's return to play plan, some situations, especially recently, and the potential that this NHL season might get canceled. Now, earlier this morning, Bob McKenzie dropped a huge bomb saying that 3 players and 2 staff members from the Tampa Bay Lightning have tested positive. Due to YouTube monetization still being kind of crazy, I can't say what they've been tested positive for, but you know what it is. And then earlier this day in the afternoon, Steve Simmons reported that Auston Matthews has also tested positive. So 2 huge pieces of news to go over and 2 big blows to the NHL's return to play plan. So, with this whole situation, what is it looking like with the NHL, and could this season potentially get canceled if these things continue to happen? Watch till the end to see all my opinions and the info, and of course hit that big red subscribe button for more videos just like this one. Now, currently the NHL is still in phase 2 of their 4-phase return to play plan. Of course, phase 4 will be when they actually start playing games, or at least getting into the bubble to where they can quarantine and then have those players healthy, hopefully. Right now, though, we're still in phase 2, which means that players are still advised to quarantine and to distance themselves, but they are allowed to go to rinks if they are open and are able to practice with each other, if the teammates are with each other and living together as well. But besides that, we haven't really seen too much progress over the past couple of weeks, because we have seen players return to the ice, but nothing really more than that. And there has been, over the past few weeks, still a lot of different stuff happening. There's been staff members, there's been different players, anything too major like with this Tampa Bay Lightning one, but subtle things as well. There's been players throughout the past couple of months that just one team, one player will get tested positive, and that would be that. But with this Tampa Bay Lightning situation, it's a lot different, because there were 3 players, 2 staff members. I would assume that those 3 players were likely practicing together in Tampa, and we know in Florida that cases of this are just going exponentially high. So for players in that kind of region, they're definitely exposed a lot more to it at this point, especially if we continue to stay in phase 2. And then we get into the Auston Matthews situation, where he's been in Arizona this whole time. The first few weeks of quarantine, he had Freddie Anderson with him as a roommate. Now Freddie Anderson has been reported to be out of Arizona at this point, but there's still Coyotes players around the Arizona system, and with Auston Matthews there as well. And with Arizona specifically, there's been a lot of states that have been really growing in cases, but Arizona has been one of the largest ones, especially over the past couple of weeks. It's been absolutely exploding, and for players in that area, it's a super vulnerable position. Unfortunately, you don't want to see players like Auston Matthews get it, but to be honest, it wasn't the most surprising thing in the world. Which for me personally is really the problem here, because you have players in Arizona, Florida, in Texas, places that have been absolutely crushed with cases, and especially over the past couple of weeks have been rising exponentially. To me, the number 1 priority should be to get those players out of there, at least right now, because the players have been advised to still quarantine, but it's not 100% enforced. They can still go out in the streets and do their thing. They're just advised to quarantine and advised to social distance, and of course get tests at this point, especially for the players going into the practice facilities. But at this point, I don't see why there's any reason to have these players here, especially in US states that have been hit the hardest. To me, the NHL might just have to look at having 2 Canadian cities as their hub cities, because right now, especially in some parts of the US, it's been absolutely insane. Now, it's also been reported that the NHL wants to make their hub cities confirmed and official as soon as next week, and with the Canadian side of things kind of loosening up a little bit, they might have an opportunity to go with 2 Canadian hub cities, which at this point might be the most safest thing. They had a confirmation that they were going to go to Las Vegas as a hub city, but now with Nevada rising in cases quite a bit and them being right next to Arizona, which is just exploding right now, I think the NHL might just have to double think that and maybe go to Vancouver, maybe Winnipeg, at least the places that might be the most safe. Because even though Las Vegas would be a perfect destination for them, at this point, what is safe for the players should be the number 1 priority, and it should have always been the number 1 priority. And that's another problem I have with this whole thing, is even if we're in phase 2, we're still going to see more players get tested positive. Unless we see the quarantine happen, where all these players are in one place and they quarantine and then we wait for a couple weeks, there's going to be players that are going to get tested positive. Staff, are going to get tested positive. Unless these players can get quarantined completely, it isn't going to stop until phase 4, really. And that's my main problem, is that I think the NHL kind of suspected this to happen. Maybe not to the extent it's had, especially recently, and maybe not in Auston Matthews' sake, but I think the NHL kind of expected that there would be positive cases here. And I think they are still going to go with that unless it gets exponentially bad. And I think it will take a lot for the NHL to cancel this season, which is unfortunate for players like Auston Matthews and the 3 players on Tampa Bay, because they were still trying to get back into the season. They were still trying to do their thing, and with Tampa, they had to shut down their practice facility. Obviously, with the Lightning, they'll have to do a lot more in the next couple of weeks to just make it safe for them to even go back there. And then again, that's another problem there, because there's just so much involved that the NHL needs to keep track of. And in terms of my believability of this season actually coming back, it's been teeter-tottering, I would say, over the past few months. Sometimes I would be really convinced it's going to happen. Sometimes it just might not. And right now, I'm probably at my lowest point in terms of actually think it's going to happen. And if it does, I'm not sure if it's going to be too safe. Again, until we get these players totally quarantined in the same hotel or something, I think there's going to be cases that continue to rise. And unless the NHL pushes back the playoffs, they can't be stuck in phase 2 forever, so something will have to budge here. And it's unfortunate that some of these players will have to become at the expense of that, because I think we're going to see more cases rise. We're going to see more stuff happen before we get even to phase 3. And I think it is going to take a lot for the NHL to actually, I would say, cancel this season, because I think it would be at the very earliest phase 3 that we actually see that happen. And if we get into phase 4 where all these guys are in 2 different cities and they're in bubbles, and we still see positive tests and cases come, I think at the very least the NHL would have to pause or postpone that season. And that's not even thinking about if it happened mid-playoffs. Let's say we get into the 3rd round of the playoffs and a bunch of guys from one team get tested positive. Who knows who's on the other team? Who knows what happens at that point? And that's what I'm most scared about, is because the vulnerability of these guys, even in that bubble system, makes it to where even if you have a couple of guys test positive, it might even be too risky to resume the playoffs at that point. But those are my thoughts and some of the info for today's video. Of course, with this one, I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments down below. Do you think the NHL should resume the season? Do you think they should cancel it? Let me know. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. A quick video coming to you guys just to get it out there, boys. Let's do this thing. Share this video with your friends, get it out there, and click on this card right here to watch all of my NHL rumor talk right in one playlist. My name is Nathan, and I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.